Has 2025 been extra traumatizing for you this year? The politics, the job loss, the climate anxiety, one thing after another after another. It's like we couldn't catch a break. Excuse my language, but it's been a shit show. Hi, my name is Morgan. I'm an intuitive holistic psychologist and coach, and I help intersectional sensitive people and empaths live an intention-filled, empowered life. Every month, I answer a question from my email subscribers about decolonized holistic mental health with an intuitive lens. And so with that said, let's get into this month's question. I'm feeling depressed, looking back on the year, all that's happened here politically, friends losing their jobs and not being sure how long I'll keep mine. What's happening with the conflict abroad and the climate? What should I do? I feel overwhelmed. First, I want to say, I hear you. And the most important aspect is to understand that what's happening now is a part of legacy. It's a part of habit. It's a part of a pattern that's been happening, and that these traumas that we're experiencing, that's right, it's repeated. And what happens when we have repeated trauma? Many of us develop what we call C-PTSD, or complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I would venture to say those of us, particularly in marginalized bodies, feel that what's happening with America, particularly with Trump, that it feels like it's repeated trauma exposure that we can't get away from. That does go and that correlates with C-PTSD. Saying that, there's a couple things that we want to do to help ourselves cope and heal. We want to be thinking about nervous system regulation. We want to be thinking about somatics. We want to be getting around safer people that acknowledge the truth of what's happening versus being gaslit by broader societal themes, like you can just pull yourself up from your bootstraps. So the first part is that we want to acknowledge that this is repeated exposure, and the events of 2025 are a part of a legacy of trauma that we've been experiencing for generations. On that note, I want to say more, particularly because I would say, starting with Black Friday, it's a season of consumerism. I call it consumerism, capitalism, Christmas. What we're hearing is, if I don't have enough monetary means to show someone that I care, to do these extra things, I don't have value. These are some very real subconscious messages that are being sent during this time. The cool thing about being an intuitive empath is I can readily sense these subconscious messages that other people have and that also society is sending. The decolonized way of going about this would be to say, I see what that is, and you know what? Capitalism and the consumerism doesn't dictate my value. My value is inherent. I get that from my spirit within inside of me. For me personally, one of the things that I love and participate in is minimalism. I'm intentional, and I just don't spend as a result of the energy around me and the impulse to just have, buy. We can assign different meaning to resources. What is it like to have quality time? And what does sacred rituals, what do they look like? What do they incorporate? We get to define them. We define what feels safe. We define what makes our nervous systems feel calm. So one of the main things that you can do to validate this legacy of trauma that's happening around us, yet to cope in a way that's going to affirm your mental health, I personally suggest minimalism of some sort, or being very intentional with how you're buying things and buying resources. Consider gifts that are repurposed, made, grown. Consider gifts that maybe don't have a monetary value. Maybe it's a deed. Generosity happens in so many different ways. It's not just in a capitalist box. A lot of us are having to deal with our family members again, or we're expected to be in places with people that may not feel safe. So estrangement is a thing. For those of us who have had trauma exposure on the familial level, we want to be mindful about that as well. I'm someone who is a proponent of blood ties does not always mean family. That gets a little tricky within particular cultures where we do want to be connecting with our ancestors with who we really are and loving that and owning that. But at the same time, no one really has a license on how certain cultures are expressed. I say that to say, let's give ourselves some leeway to be thinking about the people that harmed us don't only have the only definition of tradition. Oftentimes we can find deeper, richer, more true narratives about who we are as people and it's found outside of these abusive patterns, give yourself permission to explore traditions or connecting with others, connecting with family, connecting with community in a way that feels safe to you, and that affirms your identity versus makes you feel like you have to minimize who you are. I say that as an intersectional person who has multiple identities. Yes, that is something that's pretty common for us intersectional sensitive people and empaths, where you feel like you have to minimize one part of yourself to be a member of another community. We want to be picking those places that feel safe all together. And the effort of normalizing all these things, a way that I lean into spirituality, being an intersectional person, being Afro-Asian queer, is astrology. We just came out of that time where Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune were retrograde. However, Uranus is still retrograde. Even though our communication has gotten better, traveling is better, intuition is more clear, we're more clear on our priorities and what we need to do in terms of taking responsibility. Uranus being in retrograde means that a lot of us are feeling like these humanitarian efforts that we are pushing forward, are they having movement? We're also thinking, are there communities to go to? Where can I go? So all of those Aquarius, Uranus, tenets, principles that go along with that energy, it's in retrograde right now. It's gonna make reevaluating 2025 feel like, oh my God, what do I do? We're having this time of reflection and we're feeling like, I don't know necessarily what to make of this, but just know this period of reflection is always important to build awareness so we can move forward. When we have planets that are in retrograde, even though it's very unpleasant, there can be an overall trust in that process. With that said, I hope that provides some help and solace of what you can do as an intersectional sensitive person or empath in terms of dealing with this time of consumerism, Christmas, capitalism that I like to call it, thinking about minimalism, collective healing spaces, also having a larger framework of validation, what's happening with the stars, and then also knowing what some of the triggers are that are happening that people aren't necessarily saying with another year of Trump, having experiences if you have with poverty or lack of resources, and having triggered thoughts with money. This time of year is particularly tricky. And then also laying on the intersectional identities that you may have, and then thinking about how religious trauma and not necessarily having a family to go to is particularly triggering at this time. So if that has been helpful to you and you would like more, feel free to subscribe. But if you would like one-on-one support, you can also go to my website and schedule a free 15-minute consult. If you would like integrative holistic therapy, I offer that with concierge service, which is a blend of case management and advocacy, where I really take care of you and help you navigate the system, as well as giving you intuitive feedback to help you explore your subconscious thoughts as you're rewiring your mind in a way that is more connected with who you are in the inside. So you can go ahead and check that out. You can also go ahead and you can book an intuitive healing session where I will mirror back your inner divinity and answer any questions you have about healing. So with that said, let's be intentional with our gift giving. Your value is not tied to your productivity or the monetary value of things that you can give somebody else. Your value is connected to who you are deep down inside. It's so good to see you.